A quorum is present and the meeting has been duly called and the notice of the meeting has been posted for the time and in the manner required by law. So all board members are present beyond just a quorum. And so thank you all for attending. And I believe this should be a relatively short meeting to just address any public comments. Do we have any public comments for this Arkansas charters? Okay, no. And so we'll go right into consent items. Are there any questions regarding the consent items 1 through 9, which is on C of the agenda for the Arkansas meeting, which was provided in the Dropbox? Do I hear a motion to approve consent items 1 through 9, just described in the agenda?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right, thanks, Marvin. Any objection? Consent items 1 through 9 pass unanimously. Are there any other items to discuss in Arkansas?
No, sir.
So, it wasn't even relatively short. It was short. All right, the Arkansas meeting is adjourned. And so now I will call the Texas Charters Board meeting to order. Today is Friday, March 9th. The time is 10:38 a.m. A quorum is present. All board members are present, as stated. And the meeting has been duly called and notice of the meeting was posted as required by law. Are we going directly into public comments or are we going to start with the executive?
We could, if people here for public comment would like to leave after they give public comment, we could move it up. I'm fine with that. But we're happy for you to stay for the entire meeting as well. So let's move it up.
Let's move it up. So I've got two, is that two folks that want to speak? Okay, have you decided individually who wants to go first? Okay, please, thank you.
Is this mic working? Okay.
You know, I'm sorry, but this is actually the first time we've been doing the meetings in this room now for about a year, and this is the first issue we've had. So it's usually much better than this.
That's fine. Good morning. My name is Lana Cole. I'm coming before you today as a parent of 2 children enrolled at Founders Classical Academy of Louisville. I have also been teaching in a Founders School for several years. I'm grateful for the unparalleled education that my children are receiving, and I'm a proud promoter of the Founders Classical Education model. My concern today is over how many teachers I see leaving this school to pursue careers outside of education. Last year alone, 7 highly qualified educators who are experts in their craft left our campus. More are planning to leave this year because many simply cannot afford to follow their passion and continue to teach. My son is in the 2nd grade. His kindergarten teacher and 1st grade teacher have left. My daughter is in the 5th grade. Her 3rd grade teacher and 4th grade teacher have left. These excellent educators who have played a crucial role in the development of my children have left. Future students will not be able to benefit from their passion. Now, it's possible that my children are the problem and they're driving away teachers, but I believe that there is a different issue. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the average living wage in Denton County for a family of at least 1 working parent with children is $68,000. According to the Responsive Ed pay scale, a 5th-year teacher earns less than $53,000. In fact, a teacher in this organization would not even make $60,000 after 20 years of teaching. Further, U.S. inflation for the last 3 years has been 4.7%, 6.5%, and 3.4%. Responsive Ed's pay scale inflation is below 1% and even as low as 0.5% inflation. To put it plainly, as teachers gain experience, we are paid less each year. Our school is lauded for what it achieves on the national scale, ranking in the top 4% of the nation year over year. And at the local level, where the FCA Louisville continues to have a wait list longer than possible enrollments. Responsive Ed proudly announces new campuses every year, but cannot meet inflation or living wages for their teachers. The company's priority seems to be growth over educators. So my question to you is this: if our model education cannot survive without passionate educators, then what are you doing to retain us, to retain our talented teachers when you're paying below the living wage and widening that gap each year, offering pay increases that do not even approach inflation levels? Thank you.
Can I just ask one question on your
Absolutely.
numbers, the 68,000 in Denton County, I think you.
Yes.
Was that for teachers in Denton County, or is it for all?
As
to pay?
average living wage for Denton County.
Thank you. So normally we don't, we'll take back and talk about the issue. I mean, one of the things that we've been trying to do for a long time is to increase bonuses and pay for performance in addition to it. So when we look at it all the time, and the head of our HR group is in the room, and he's listening to this as well. So it's important to us. It much is. I would also want to ask him and our organization, what's the turnover in ISDs in addition? And keep in mind also that ISDs do receive more funding. So although we're opening schools, the important thing that we do there is that each school that we open is able to fund itself. So it's not like we're sharing the pots of gold around and expanding and having growth. It's because we want to bring our mission, the way we teach, the way the school operates, to these other locations. And they have to be self-sustaining for us to do that.
And
So-
I definitely support our mission.
No,
preach
and
the
I
gospel
heard
all
that
the time.
in your comments, and so, but it's very much just a takeaway for us. And there are members of this board that have had, members of their family that work here. So it is very important to this board, to the people, the staff, but we just, we'll take it back and have conversations with that.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming.
you.
Appreciate it. And thank you for teaching our young people.
So. Lisa? Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Lisa Castello. I appreciate you having me and letting me speak. I have 3 students who have been through Founders in Louisville, and one recently graduated. I have a junior and I have a 6th grader. And I wrote a pretty extensive email for public comment as well. But I wanted to follow up with some information that I left in my public comment, just in case you weren't able to listen to it. I saw that the
Call you
school
back
chat.
when this is over.
You're in a meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Sorry.
No worries. I saw that the school chaplaincy approval item is on your consent items. So I don't know exactly what that means, but I am assuming that there's a favorable intent in regard to voting and approval of school chaplains at Responsive Ed Texas schools. But I just wanted to list some of the statistics that I've heard about the benefits of school chaplains, and just personally ask you to vote yes for school chaplains in our schools in Texas. So this information comes from the Eric Metaxas podcast, an interview with Rocky Malloy, who's the founder and CEO of Chaplains in Schools, that have placed over 30,000 schools with chaplains that they've certified in 23 countries. And this was some of the data that Texas considered when they passed Senate Bill 763 last June to provide funding for chaplains on public school campuses in Texas. So the data is that was quoted in that podcast by Mr. Malloy is an up to 80% reduction in teen pregnancies for schools that have school chaplains. A 37% increase in graduation rates, and 0 suicides reported in the past 14 years in any school that has one of their chaplains. I just thought those statistics were ones that I wanted you to hear, and that I hope that also our campuses will consider in hiring a school chaplain based on your approval. So districts have the option of voting in favor or against. And I just, was saying in my email that because at Founders Schools specifically, and I would assume RES schools as well, that virtue is part of our brand, which is one of the things that makes us so wonderful and unique. And so I would just hope that RES would be on the forefront of the school chaplain movement in the United States and in Texas. And just wanted to also just thank you so much for your work on behalf of our students and our campuses. We spent 9 years in Christian prep school and 3 years in public school at a public ISD. And this is our home, RES schools. And I just want to thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. Thanks for taking time.
Any other comments or anybody else who wants to speak? Right. Well, thank you both for coming in and sharing your views, your concerns, and we'll be voting pretty soon on the chaplain, and I think positively. Yeah. Okay, great.
Okay, Sarah, we're ready to show a video here, episode 2 of our 25th, celebrating our 25th anniversary. You're using an Apple device. Yeah. I've never seen all those questions. We usually just play. Just play. And we're still recording. And this is this episode 1 or 2? That's my dig. With that quote, Chris, it looks like episode 1, but we'll see. They're there. You can both come to the table. That would be great. All right. Is it going to work or you want to move on? That okay. All right. Thank you all for trying and working on that. Appreciate it. All right, ladies, if you would introduce yourselves.
Go ahead.
I am Tyra Eli, the Associate Director of Accountability in the District DCSI.
I'm Dr. Lauren Fellers. I am our Executive Director of Assessment and Accountability.
So there are a few things required by law that are presented in a public forum. Of course, a board meeting is a public forum as well, but this is a public meeting to discuss the TAPER report, Texas Academic Performance Report. So Dr. Fellers, go ahead, take it away.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, this is a report that essentially recaps our 22-23 school year. I'm already thinking 24-25, so I'm just messing up all my numbers here. So this is officially released from the state. These are the numbers that they use to support our accountability. If you all recall, we did not get grades this year, but we still get to review our overall, thank you very much, performance on STAR, EOC, attendance, CCMR. So this report and what Tyra and I are going to talk to you about today is the summary of what was discovered from last school year. So this report is from all of our PEAMS report. It's designed to allow us a look inside our practices, policies, procedures, as well as just an overall performance review from the prior school year. This is a public facing report. So anybody who wanted to access anything for any district or campus within the state is able to do so through TEA's website. We did link our official reports at the end of this report if someone was so excited to look through the 40-page PDF for every district. We're going to go through the highlights today and look at a comparison of our district to the state, as well as some of our comparisons of our 23 to 22 data. This is also something that we ask our campus leaders to review in order to think about what's happening for the future. How are we addressing gaps? How are we addressing things like teacher performance or professional development? It also allows for the district, us, an opportunity to see anything that we might have missed or, hey, pat ourselves on the back for the good work of the efforts that we put in. So, yeah, go ahead.
And then also just a reminder, the TAPER report is based off of snapshot students. So you have to be enrolled as of the last Friday of October. And that's based on any of the students that took the assessment STAR or EOC at the end of the year.
Excellent. So we have two districts that we're going to review today. We'll look at Premier first, which is our dropout recovery schools that serve grades 9 through 12. And then we'll look at our Texas College Preparatory Academies that serve grades K-12, but the assessment data is specific to students in grades 3 through 12. Our virtual campus spans both of those districts, but when we look at it today, it will be separated by the students that belong to TCPA versus the students that belong to Premier. So for Premier, we have seen a ton of really wonderful growth within this district and our schools as a whole. We've seen an overall increase in graduates. So our total graduates from 2023, which is the class of 2022, was almost 1,800 graduates, which is up from about 1,575 the prior year. So we have really seen an increase in their overall graduation rates. You'll also notice that we have 3 different types of diplomas that are available to our students. I'll let Tyra explain a little bit of that.
Okay, so the diploma types that we do have available for our students, we have Foundation No Endorsement, which covers 22 credits. It's the basic diploma that any student can get. Then we also have the Foundation with Endorsement. That is what the extra math and science credit that the students can also get. Typically, it's going to be Algebra 2, and then you have physics as well. And then you also have the graduation plan that is the Foundation DLA, which is Distinguished Level of Achievement. That is where majority of the students that focuses on CCMR or college readiness and career readiness, they receive those credits.
So we've encouraged with Premier more students to earn endorsements and the DLA. We can see that trend continuing upward year after year. This has been our highest number to date of students who are earning the endorsement and or the DLA plan. So we're very excited about that work for them. Overall, our attendance rate is increasing. We also see our dropout rate decreasing, which is fantastic. Additionally, we have seen an overall increase in CCMR. This is due to our expanding CTE programs. This is also due to our students participating and passing their industry-based certifications. We have had a robust CTE plan for the last 2 years that's been implemented, and we are starting to see the absolute fruits of that labor. Our EOC performance has also seen an uptick. I know we've spent the last couple of years talking about learning loss with COVID. One thing that we have seen as a general increase to our students in Premier is that we are seeing an increase in their overall pass rate between 22 and 23. I'm previewing my next slide. We had an almost 10% increase in our students who passed Algebra 1, which is notoriously our most difficult EOC to pass. We have seen just some really good practices. We are also seeing some upticks in our meets and masters. There's a little bit of inconsistency, but within 2% of our performance from last year is the deviation for 23. So I mentioned the overall growth in algebra, but we are also seeing growth in English too. We are also seeing growth in biology and US history. So on the whole, our Premier students are coming to class more often. They are getting their EOC graduation requirements completed, and they are graduating on time with their peers more frequently than they have in the past. So we are seeing a lot of really positive things happen on the Premier side. So moving on to Texas College Prep, additionally,
Can we go back one
yeah,
side?
sure.
And Sarah, when you see, or the guys supporting you, if you see we're blocking an image, just move it temporarily, and let them see.
Yeah, let's see that 90% for US history.
Now you can move it back, that's fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll, oh wait, she's got. Will you click back into the presentation for me, please?
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Otherwise, my buttons don't work. So for TCPA, we have also another view of our diploma plan. The types of diplomas do not change based on the district. Oops, went too far. The majority of our students within TCPA are earning the DLA diploma, which is great. That means that we are graduating more often than not students that are college and career ready, which is everyone's idea of a good time. So this is our TCPA graduation profile. You can see that for attendance, dropout rate, and the CCMR component, we are faring better than the state average. You might notice that I did not compare Premier to the state. That is because the state does not have a specific indicator for dropout recovery, so it's not an equal comparison. Our TCPA district covers K-12. We have a wide variety of racial, ethnic, as well as eco-dis students, and therefore we are more comparable to the state. We are doing well. We are seeing upticks where we need to, the numbers are a little bit wonky there because the blue goes with the blue, if that's helpful. So we are seeing an increase in all the things that we have been promoting, attendance and CCMR over the last couple of years. So this is our STAR performance. This is the meets category, which the state of Texas considers on grade level when a student achieves meets or above. We have 3 accountability categories: approaches grade level, meets grade level, masters. They are not mutually exclusive. So a student who is classified as a master is also classified as meets and also classified as approaches. So if you do get into the TAPER report, you will see that the percentages do not add up to 100. They will add up hopefully to well over 100. So as you can see, in 2023, we outperformed the state in all grade levels, which is fantastic. This is specifically for reading. You can notice our English 1 and 2 scores are really taking a strong lead over the state. I will make one comment. 2023 was the new STAR test, which was exciting for everyone. You're a teacher, so you know. This included a lot more of the interactive items that they want, because that's how we teach. They want to be able to assess in a more closely aligned fashion to how we teach our students. So there was a lot more of a typing presence on our 3rd and 4th grade assessments. Overall, we still saw a similar number of students approaching. However, the meets and masters took a little bit of a dip from the 22 scores to the 23. They're expected to rebound this year, but that is something to note for the state and for most districts. For math, it's a great note. Thank you. For math, we are seeing a little bit of a stall. We are still seeing upward progress from our previous years of COVID. Math took the hardest hit of our students being out of the classroom, missing some of that grade level content, missing some of that direct instruction. We are seeing a return. We're seeing continuous increases in our total students that are not only passing the test, but also meeting and mastering. But we have not caught up to all of our peers quite yet. I will also comment that that fourth grade math test is notoriously difficult. And so we tend to see a little bit of a dip in those scores. Science and social studies, we've also seen a little bit of a rebound from, you go back just a little bit. Just wanting to share the fun of clicking. For science and social studies, we are seeing the uptick on our EOCs. We are still seeing some of those item types impacting our student performance on the 5th, 8th grade tests. I will also say that that 8th grade social studies is a hard test. Those students work really, really hard in order to get basically 8 years worth of history material into one assessment. So that is our comparison to the state. Pretty typical. We've started to really rebound on our performance. We are starting to see some of those professional development and instructional impacts play out on our assessment scores. So we have a lot of brands that we offer within our TCPA family. This is a view of our performance across those brands. Like I mentioned before, Approaches, Meets, and Masters is not mutually exclusive. So you'll see a lot of students in Approaches. A medium amount in Meets, and Masters is usually, we're aiming for about 30%. So if you notice here, we have also a couple of differences between Founders, Ignite, Quest. Some schools are K-12, some schools are only K-8. So that does impact the overall summaries here. But in general, we are either outperforming or very close to our state counterparts for our overall performance for the all grades, all subjects. This is what we're looking at across our math, reading, science, and social studies. This is for math. So like I mentioned, math has been the longest road back to where we were pre-COVID, being out of that classroom, being out of direct instruction. And we have really seen a lot of progress back toward quality assessments, scores that we actually want to see, et cetera. And again, we're pacing pretty close to the state. Those dashed lines are the state comparison. I do also want to remind you guys that this virtual is only the TCPA virtual. This does not include the students that are in our virtual program on the Premier side. This is our 3 through 8. So you'll notice that our 3 through 8 is a little bit different, but for Founders, because a lot of our 8th grade students take Algebra 1, that's an impact. For Quest, we don't have quite as many 3 through 8 students as we do 9 through 12. So these are all impacts. We wanted to give you guys a full picture of our support for students across our grade levels and subjects. The reading tests, we tend to fare better in our ELAR. We have bounced back a little faster post-COVID. We are actively supporting our math instruction in order to close those gaps. We participated in the LASSO grant this year to really hone in on some instructional framework and to make sure that we're supporting teachers to give them everything that they need to support students who still see those gaps from the last couple of years of instruction. Like I mentioned, this is our 3 through 8 versus our all grades. English 1 and 2, we did really well on this year. So that was a great boon to our overall district performance. And this is our science for our various brands. We're still performing quite well, tracking pretty closely to the state in most places. And then finally, our social studies, again, tracking quite closely and outperforming the state in a lot of areas.
And also you want,
Go ahead.
when we talk about science, that it's going to be 5th and 8th grade in biology. And then so for social studies, it's going to be just 8th grade in US history.
Correct. So this, oops, going backwards. I'll work my buttons. This last one is smaller than I anticipated. I played it on my TV, it looked right. This is our comparison to our charter peers. These are other CMOs in the state where we see a similar student makeup for the most part. TCPA is the bar all the way to the left. And then we have Great Hearts, Harmony, which is a composite of the Harmony districts. They have several. Then we have IDEA and IL Texas and KIPP. You'll notice the state trend line is that black dotted line across the way. So we are outperforming many of our charter peers as well as the state. And everything that we've been looking at for the most part today has been in the meets category. So now we're going to go through the HB3 adopted plans, but I will pause if there's any questions for the TAPER report. Any questions for performance or districts? Anything we want to ask?
Could you go back to the comparison to districts for a second?
Yes, I can.
So,
Oops.
so Harmony, this is Great Arts. Great Arts, we're comparing to other CPA, not the Founders.
Correct.
If you pulled that data, you can see more of an apples to apples. The other end of the spectrum, if you will, is KIPP. So KIPP is, KIPP and IL Texas, they're
High eco.
85 to 93% economically disadvantaged. We as a district, I think we're around 45%
Correct.
TCPA, 45%, which is the blue bar. TCPA would be 45%. And then Great Hearts, because we're not comparing ourselves to just our Founders brand, Great Hearts, their economically disadvantaged would be somewhere between, at each campus, between 8 and I think they have one that's 22%. So the average is probably more like 12%.
Correct.
So we're just showing you, you see that black dotted line, that's the state average. We're just showing you, if you were the public, if you were the state, and you're looking at the charter, the district, this is what they're seeing and comparing. And they're not necessarily thinking about the economically disadvantaged numbers. So on the one hand, we get the benefit of, you can see our dark blue line there compared to what's happening with some of our peers that, as I just said, have different demographics, but the same thing's true of the Great Hearts, which is the kind of the gold bar. So not really an apples to apples comparison when you consider the demographics, who they're serving, but we showed it to you because, again, this is how the public sees it when they look at a TAPER report for a district.
That's a great point. So that's also why we provide you with the TCPA district as well as our brand overall performance, because they do offer such wide varieties of instructional modalities. We serve a lot of different students. We have a lot of different geographic boundaries for our campuses. Mr. Cook is absolutely right. This is one way that the public is going to view our data, but it doesn't tell the whole story. We do have more of a comparison between a district like Great Hearts, who's also a classical, mostly, group, in order to compare them to our Founders brand, which fits in that same kind of boat. Dr. Cutter made a point, which I think is really worth repeating, that in domain 2, we do get more of those near peer comparisons because we are grouped by our EcoDis ranges. So our Founders schools in that domain are compared to their economically disadvantaged peers. Same thing for our Ignite, our neighborhood schools, and our Quest campuses. Quest is also interesting because they either have 3-8 or K-8, excuse me, or they have a 9-12 iSchool. So it's a brand that has even wide varieties within that brand. So that bears fleshing out as well.
And that's one of our oldest brands too. isn't it?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So that's the TAPER report. I think we're moving into HB3. So do you have any questions on the TAPER? There's a lot of information, volume of data in there in your notebook. It does not just cover academics. It covers discipline reports. It covers, I think, 8 different things that are measured that end up in the TAPER report that's available to the public. Any other questions?
I don't have any questions.
Comments?
I do like this slide. It really helped with the context of it, because I was asking Chuck, the Great Hearts is not a brand I'm familiar with or a district that I'm familiar with, but to understand why it was exceeding, in 3 fields there pretty considerably. Yeah, it's probably just a few percentage points,
Right.
but that context helps.
Would y'all give us this data for the next board meeting that's comparing it's the comparison district with the brand?
The brand,
Brand.
sure.
That'd be great.
The other thing to remember is that our CMO is quite unique in the number of schools that we have, as well as the number of students. That's not always an exact comparison to the other charter districts. They might have fewer schools with more students or more schools with fewer students. So the wonderful thing about the charters in the state of Texas is that variety. It does, however, make it really hard to make an apples to apples comparison.
Right.
So absolutely, we can provide you with a little bit more of a close picture for the brands that would match to those charter peers.
Yeah, and that's right, because we go to 9,900 campuses,
Right.
24,000 students, each one might be in different size.
Right,
Which
sure.
changes the numbers. a lot.
Correct, absolutely.
Okay,
Any other questions for Taper? Academic
I
data?
have a related
So
question
now we're gonna
potentially
get
here.
into HP3. It's okay. I'll put this slide in. Oh, sorry, thanks. No, you're fine. That was good. That was good anticipation. I threw you there. So these are the plans and goals that we adopted under the House Bill 3 in order to support early childhood literacy, 3rd and 8th grade math, as well as our college, career, and military readiness goals. So at the top there, you will see our yearly targets that are, they were planned out for 5 years. We're now into that 5th year. So for each of the 4 years, we have continued to see growth across most of our goals. So we have the 4. We have early childhood literacy, which is our 3rd grade reading. We have math. We also have CCMR for both districts. So you'll notice that, go ahead.
One thing to also remember when we're looking at HB3, it's going to be category for meets. So it's not going to look at the approaches students, it's all students that were meets or above.
Correct, that's a great point. And you can see in the top there, we have 57% of our 3rd graders that are at the meets level for reading. We are slightly off of our 2023 target, but we are continuing to see that growth. So our goals were created in 2019. We're above, I'm sorry. We're off of our 2024 goal, but only because we already met it. So you'll also notice down in the bottom that you can see the performance of our subgroups. I apologize, it's really small text at this point. The subgroups are also continuing to grow across the board, which is great for our students.
So the first number is the goal, that's 51% in 2020.
Correct.
Of course, it's not applicable, the actual, then 21, it was 53%, we were at 41%. Am I reading that right?
Yes,
Yes.
correct. And I will make
In 23, it was 57% was the goal and we hit 64%.
correct. And in 2021, we were not required to take STAR. So that 41% is only reflective of those students who came to school to test,
Right.
which was not 100%.
Okay.
well, okay.
So we are at 64% of our 3rd grade students who are meeting the grade level requirements on the reading STAR assessment. I'm looking here, it's here. So this is the goal that is reflective of our 3rd grade students who are meets or above on their math STAR assessment. So again, you'll notice our 5-year goals, which were created in 2019. So our 2020 goal would have been 50%, ending with 60% in 2024. We are off of our 2023 goal, but again, we've seen steady growth year to year. We are also continuously implementing programs to support math instruction. That has been a high focus of our academic team. It's been a high focus of PD across the board within each of our brands.
One thing to add to this is that in 2020, we didn't take a test. In 2021, it wasn't mandatory to take the test. And in 2023, they gave us a new test. So this has been something that we're definitely trying to achieve, but it's really hard to actually quantify any sort of growth with all those little hiccups and hurdles.
We are having a lot of fun with accountability though. It's just a delightful, delightful time. So the final goal for TCPA is our college, career, and military readiness goal. Our goal for the 5 years is, 100% of our students will be classified as college, career, or military ready. We do this through several things. A lot of it is our career and technical program. Some of it is SAT or ACT testing. Some of it is dual enrollment. There are many ways for our students to meet this target. TCPA has a goal of 98% for 2023. And we did see a little bit of a dip between 22 and 23. This is somewhat in part to TEA changing the rules on some of our industry-based certifications. Things that they allowed for 2022, they immediately set aside for 2023. So we did see a slight reduction, especially with our virtual students who don't have as many options for earning the industry-based certification because they are remote students. We are actively pursuing other options. We are back mostly on track for supporting those students to earn their CCMR point in a different way.
And also just take in mind that military was removed as well too. So now with it being back in, we should see a more of an increase as well.
That's a good point. They removed the military readiness target for, I think, 3 years of accountability while they shored up some of the documentation process. It has been reintroduced and will be a factor for our 24 accountability. For Premier, because we do not serve 3rd grade, we are only looking at our CCMR goal. And as you can see, again, steady progress towards that goal for the last 5 years. They were slightly off again because we have a large portion of students that had participated in these industry-based certifications that TEA has decided they're going to cap. So we are, again, robustly increasing our CTE offerings, as well as our PATH counselors have supported more TSI, SAT, and ACT testing. They are encouraging more dual enrollment on our Premier side, and we are seeing those numbers steadily increase. We also continue to see progress in most of our subgroups, which is great for our student performance and their preparedness when they graduate. So I believe that is officially all of my slides. We did link the HB3 goal as well as our TAPER official reports for you all to access if you, again, want to look through all of the litany of data that's available to you. Are there any questions or follow-up that you might have for HB3 or TAPER?
I don't really, I mean, at some point, I mean, I wouldn't mind getting a lesson on what makes somebody military ready. Is it strictly academic or is it also physical fitness?
So they have an ASVAB assessment that they do where they've talked to a recruiter. It is an assessment that they give them. I'm not sure the details of what is included in that, if it does include anything that's non-academic.
So before they actually you were able to get military points based on if a student said they wanted to go to the military.
Intent.
If they are intent to go to the military, you were able to get that CCMR point for them. But with the numbers being so high and a lot of students not actually going to the military, they wanted to actually change that process. So now, to actually be considered military, you have to, again, take your ASVAB test, and you also have to show like your letter that you're actually going into the military in order to receive that credit.
Okay. Okay, yeah, so I know like the Marine Corps requires a pass. There's certain requirements within the Air Force. You know, Army, Coast Guard, Navy, you know, it's a pulse. Sorry, no offense to those guys. So I was curious and, you know, we have an ROTC program. Does that get factored into it or?
So I do not believe it does. It's only the ASVAB at this time. And I want to say that they also made the ASVAB across the branches of military. It is a single assessment that a student can take whether they are selecting Marines, Navy, Army, any of those areas. So it's just the one assessment and it's just the one piece of documentation. That way the campus doesn't have to chase down a whole bunch of other things.
And you have to actually be going to the military at the time of your graduation to receive that credit. So if we have a student that decides not to go that first year and goes next year, we wouldn't receive that point for that student. It has
They
to be
would
one
have to have
state
credit in some other areas. you said.
Correct, yes, sir.
Thank you. And a very good presentation, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Mhm.
Could I ask a quick question? Are
Lance is trying to ask a question and I think
Yes.
he's muted.
you able to hear me now?
We're not hearing you, Lance, sorry.
Hmm. I'm- Okay, that's all right. Carry on.
Does not show you're muted on our screen.
Did we turn them?
Testing.
I swear this has not happened.
It has-
It's the rain.
It's okay. Carry on.
So let's,
Well, sorry, Lance.
I can stick around if he,
let's, call him on his cell phone, Chris, and then can you just bring this
Or
up?
type it into the comments as Christian suggested, Doctor.
but we will break.
It's a lengthier comment. We can call you, get you on, speakerphone.
You see that? I can't see it.
A question related to economic advantages.
For students that are classified as economically disadvantaged? Oh, it might be finance.
It would be interesting to see results adjusted for economically advantaged.
Only.
Correct.
Yeah.
So if you look in TAPER, which if
we
we're
can
gonna
get-
give you some follow-up data, we can
We're
do
gonna
this
get you
as
data by
well.
brand, but we can also do. it-
Yeah. So it is disaggregated by those sub-pops in TAPER and also in our accountability formula. So when we look at our student groups, we look across our racial ethnic groups, but as well as a couple of groups that they determine are high focus. So that's our English language learning students, that is our special education students, that is also our EcoDis and our highly mobile, so that's foster, homeless, migrant students, anybody classified in that group. So we do have data that is disaggregated by that. It's a little deep to get into on a day like today when you guys are processing through a lot of things, but I am happy to support, to give you guys some data to look at, especially across our different brands where we're looking at the performance of those students. With Premier, it's pretty much the same because the number of our students classified as EcoDis is so high. So that data wouldn't change all that much, but we'll absolutely provide some
We'll have that next
context.
time. We'll have it by brand and we'll also have by sub-pops. Anything
Yes.
else? Sorry, you're not able to hear. Marvin, if you come off mute, can we hear you?
Mm.
Yours shows you're muted.
There, okay.
No, we can't hear Marvin either. Sorry. Yeah.
Any other questions?
No.
Excellent.
It could be when you're trying to get the video playing, you were changing the sound, it could have messed it up. All right. We want to.
Yeah, we're gonna move to consent items. I don't think there are any other. We'll go into closed session, but no other items to discuss. Does anybody have any questions on the consent items? 1 through 7. By the way, 7 is the discussion on action on chaplains. It was discussed earlier.
For this part, the forum is the four of you.
Because they cannot,
Because we can't hear them and see them, so they're not here as far as for the purposes of vote. So
Okay.
Your forum, and then the four of you vote on the gift.
okay, so they're essentially abstaining because they can't, we can't hear them? Okay. So they wouldn't be able to raise their hand, they have to advert, okay. All right, but any questions? If you had questions about the consent items, I'm sure we could take them, but you'd have to type them. But if you shake your head, you have no questions, we're good? All right,
Before we do this,
Yeah.
are you sure if you unmute the TV, we can't hear them through the TV? Where's the clicker for the TV? Unmute the TV, please, and.
We did hear him earlier.
You hear that? Say yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
All right, you're,
it's the-
you're back in the
sound
game.
system. So
We're
can hear.
back.
All right,
Any,
any questions? Yeah, I saw you say no, Lance. Marvin, any questions on the consent items?
Just was wondering about the denomination question on chaplains.
was there a question?
Denomination, so is there a specific denomination? For chaplains? or-
What's the,
Right now, the only thing that's being voted on is for the board to permit administration to continue forward and present a proposal on what policies and procedures will be. There's nothing that's being solidified today, other than you're permitting us to move forward with this to be implemented at one or more sites and under one or more, under a policy procedure yet to be determined and presented to the board.
and if Chris needs to move over here to a mic and say that again.
Yeah.
Probably you should go to that
Yeah.
table.
Yeah, so, and I can say it too, just to, for time's sake, but we're just going to vote to permit the organization to move forward, creating a policy or procedure for implementing the chaplain.
Right.
What's making it permissible under the state law. At some point, they'll come to us with the specific policy and procedure before they start hiring chaplains
Yeah, good.
and implementing. So, which has my support. So, if no other questions, do I hear a motion to approve consent items D on the agenda 1 through 7?
Yep, so made.
Do I hear a second?
Second,
Thank you, Marvin. Are there any objections? Consent items 1 through 7 passes unanimously. All right. We're going to go into closed session. I don't think we're coming out of closed session to make a vote. So if you guys want to stick around for that, it'll probably take a good 45 minutes for us to be in closed session. So. Okay, sorry. All right, pursuant to sections 551.076, 551.089, 551.074, and 551.071 of the Texas Government Code, we are authorized to go into closed session. No votes will be taken until we reconvene in open session. We're in closed session.
Stop recording.
All right, we are going back into open session. The meeting is back in order here. It's never left that, but the time is 12:11. All the board members are present still, and we are again back in open session. Having concluded business in closed session, there are three motions that need to be made. One is do I hear a motion to approve the school marshals candidates as presented in closed session?
So move.
Do I hear a second?
second,
Thank you. Any objection? That motion passes unanimously. And the candidates are approved. Do I hear a motion to approve the settlement agreement that was discussed? Did in closed session?
So move.
Do I hear a second? No, thank you, Lisa. Any objection?
you have discussion?
We can have discussion if you want, sure.
Uh,
But about, well, actually, no, we already discussed it in closed session. The discussion has to be in closed session.
Okay. Well, we're voting on something we don't even know what we're voting
We
on.
discussed it in closed session.
We can go back in closed session if you want.
We'll go back into closed session.
No, that's okay.
No, we'll do it. We'll do it.
You wanna,
We're gonna
Do we need to read
pursue
it
it to
again?
section, which one is it? Is it 0.74? Yep, pursuant to 551.074 of the Texas Government Code, we're going to go into closed session to continue a conversation that was previously had in closed session. All right, stop recording. All right, back into open session, and we are recording, and we're going to, I think I had the motions, right? Any objections? So now are there any objections to the approval of that we just had the motion on? No, no, okay. The motion to approve the settlement agreement as presented was in closed session, it passed unanimously. The other motion, and I'll make this motion to approve and uphold the level 3 grievance as presented in closed session. Do I hear a second?
Second,
My apologies. The uphold the level 3 grievance, the outcome of the level 3 investigator. I just didn't yeah, just want.
Yeah, so motion is to approve, I make the motion to uphold the decisions and
Yes, sir.
direction provided within the level 3 grievance as presented. Marvin, did you second?
yes.
Yes, right. Any objection? That motion passes unanimously. Are there any other matters to be brought before the board?
Nope.
The meeting is adjourned. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate